But nobody really acknowledged at the time, like, hey, these funds are temporary, y'all. Like, they're not going to last forever. We knew that from the beginning, but nobody was having those conversations about what does it look like to wind this all down.
Planning for it.
Atomic Souls podcast.
I think that it strengthens my relationship with those partner organizations because they're like, all right, cool. They're willing to admit like they do a shitty job at this particular thing. Like, cool. Like we can trust that they're going to own when they need help. And I think that's a challenge for some folks. So that's one thing that I try to just keep very humble, and it's all about creating the best possible outcome for our clients. And so there's no room for egos in that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge to like own like, hey, we don't do this. Like we keep running into like struggling to find good psychiatry facilities to like partner with. And so I'm like, we'll just do it ourselves. Like maybe we'll hire one. Like it's probably not the best route to go.
Right.
We just need to find one that is a good fit.
Yeah. It's, and there's, particularly now with in the nonprofit space, like the funding shifts and just how drastically the landscape is about to change. And I don't think I think it's happening in some ways very slowly, but I think that, in a year or so, we're going to look back to 2025 nonprofit landscape, and it's going to be unrecognizable.
Wow. You say it's a good thing or a bad thing?
I'm going to say pretty confident it's going to be a bad thing.
Yeah.
But, there's some things that I think will be good about it. So
yeah, can you go in depth a little bit about it? Because we're just kind of out of the loop because we don't operate in that space.
Yeah.
But we've been adjacent to it a couple times.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know there's like a ton of political impact that happens in that area.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what's happened is in like 2019, 2020, COVID and the American Rescue Plan Act happened, right? And so there was this huge spike in resources for all sorts of nonprofits, healthcare nonprofits, homeless service nonprofits. The money was just like, it appeared as if it was just raining from the skies. And I remember saying, there were more opportunities than we could apply for. I was like, we can't grow that fast. At that point, the Other Ones Foundation grew 4 times in our staffing and funding between 2020 and 2023. Wow. And I was like, we can't do any more like that. It's irresponsible to take on any more than that. Yeah. And I know other organizations, even well-established organizations, were feeling the same way. So the only solution was, well, we need new nonprofits then to open up and take on some of these resources so that we can create this influx in services in the community. It was great. I mean, organizations boomed. The services were getting to clients. But nobody really acknowledged at the time, like, hey, these funds are temporary, y'all. Like, they're not going to last forever. We knew that from the beginning, but nobody was having those conversations about what does it look like to wind this all down.
For it.
And so, I think there was some awareness of like, okay, we got to be careful to make sure that we allocate this money to things that can be like one-time funding opportunities. Like at the government level, I think that the state and federal level, those were the conversations. But locally, like from the provider perspective, people were like, just expanding programs like crazy and not thinking through the fact that like, I'm going to have to close this down in 3 years.
Right.
So now we're at close down time, right? Like
it's been a lot of
you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Like, and so there was already a big influx in nonprofit, in the number of nonprofits since 2000. I actually looked up these numbers yesterday. Since 2000 compared to 2026, there's like 4 times as many nonprofits nationally.
Really?
Then, it's grown. I think it was like 60% growth. And what that means is, one, systems are harder to navigate. It becomes more coincidental that you find the right provider, right? Because the networks are so huge and so complicated, and they grew so fast that there's not coordinated systems to help customers figure out where to go. And the funds are really kind of dispersed in a way that is maybe not the smartest or most effective or use of public dollars.
Yeah.
So all of that is kind of consequences of that big ARPA influx. But now that those funds are going away, there's a lot of smaller organizations, grassroots organizations that had been, that had been funded through that, that are trying to figure out, well, what is their place now? It's hard. It's hard because I know some of these people and I really appreciate the work that they do. And I know it's important, but I'm also like, how many people do we need like delivering groceries?
Right.
Yeah.
Is there, and it's about creating an efficient system. And that's why TOOF really has leaned into like partnerships. I'm not going to start a whole new line of service. Like that costs a lot of money to like figure out how to do something and train and create all these new procedures. So we're going to bring in a partner to do that. Yeah. And I think that's a mindset in the nonprofit world that folks have to get back into. If you are a jack of all trades, you're doing it wrong. It means you're doing everything mediocre, and we're not in a resource abundant situation anymore.
That's also the way majority of for-profit companies will operate too. Like if you look at any big company, in general, they're going to operate around 70 to 80% in-house, and then 20 to 30% is going to be contracted out. Because when time gets tough, I want to be able to have some buffer there before I have to lay off my people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, if you look at it from a long-term systematic approach, that's what works, is to partner with other people, because exactly what you said, when the funding stops, I need to be able to cut off somewhere and it not be an internal aspect.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And also we're stronger. We do better services that way. Right. I, recently, I've had some conversations. We've been having a lot of conversations around our workforce development continuum. And we had, this is probably within the last couple of years that we've been like, okay, we really need to expand out how we support people getting back into the workforce. Yeah. Like we did transitional jobs and really early job readiness training for a long time, and it wasn't translating into permanent employment. So, okay, we need to stretch out this continuum. We need to bring in more services. And in our minds, I think we had this idea that we were going to like just be able to build out this continuum and the money would flow. And I'm like, we got a big slap in the face, essentially, of like, you don't know what you're talking about. This is a completely different system of care. It's a completely different funding infrastructure. Everything. It's its own ball of wax. And recently, kind of came to the conclusion of like, yeah, we don't need to be doing all of that. We have willing partners and Central Texas, Goodwill Central Texas, and Workforce Solutions, and the Literacy Coalition. Like all these folks have already cracked the code on how to access the funding, who are the supports, who are the right people that need to be at the table, and what are the best practices to make it work. And so I do wonder, I would love one day to find out, like, what does it actually cost these systems of care for people just recreating wheels?
Yeah.
And nobody telling them, hey, you're recreating the wheel.
Been done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we caught it. We definitely put some resources into it.